All right, everybody, welcome back once again. If you're watching this on YouTube, well, first off, thank you for watching this. Secondly, I would like you to check out my website here, www.danceofthecosmos.com. Again, my name's Dan Hendricks. So this is part 4 on the series of videos that I'm making about karma, fate, free will, and astrology. Now in this video, what we're going to talk about is in the previous 3 videos, I talked about karma. In this video, I'm going to talk about fate and free will. Now, what I believe to be the difference between karma and fate and free will is simply that karma is the things that happen to us. Fate and free will, on the other hand, to me are basically like our individual perception of how or why those events occur. That idea of why it is happening that each of us has. Some of us believe that, everything that we have is because of fate, is because of destiny, whether good, whether bad. It's like, okay, this is, that's why I have this in my life. Now, on the other hand, if you believe in free will, if that's your perception is free will, if there's no such thing as fate, then you're under the belief that everything that you did is because of your own actions. And so, but in either end, it is based upon karma. It's based upon the things that are happening in your life. That's undeniable. The things in our life are undeniable because they're present. They are there. Those experiences have happened. That is there. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of what is the driving force. Is it me doing it, or is it the universe giving it to me? So with that being said, now, in all fairness, I thought it would be most appropriate if we actually look at the definitions of fate and definitions of free will as they are commonly given. So I just Googled each one, and here's what I came up with. I didn't do searching. I didn't go through all the options. I just took what it said when I Googled fate. And what it says here is the development of events beyond a person's control regarded as determined by a supernatural power. Fate decided his course for him. You see that there? Fate decided his course for him. And then Greek and Roman mythology. This is interesting. We're not going to get into that discussion. And then we have verb to use, so to be destined to happen, turn out, or act in a particular way. The regime was fated to end badly. And so now, so that's basically what fate is. So fate is like, if you believe in fate, you believe that, because right here it says a person's control. So it says development of events beyond a person's control, because it's from the perspective of a person. What is control? Control is you have a perspective of like, I'm possible and capable of making these things happen in my life, but these things are beyond that. These things are fate because they're beyond my control. But it's still, if there's the idea of my, there's the, without my and me and I, these are the words that we use to describe our own self-perception of things. So fate, in my mind, in my perception, fate is a perceptive thing of how we perceive things. Same with free will. And then here's the definition of free will. So again, right here off Wikipedia, free will is the ability to choose between different possible courses of action. It is closely linked to the concepts of responsibility, praise, guilt, sin, and other judgments which apply only to actions that are freely chosen. See, it's got a little free will, and it's good and it's bad because, but anyhow, without even ignoring the scales that it's showing here, it's the ability to choose between, I can go this way, I can go this way, I can go this way. I don't really personally think that it's necessarily good or bad. Maybe that's why we choose a course of action, because we believe it's good. We judge it or whatever. But free will is about like, no matter whether I thought it was good or bad, free will is like, I chose it. Why these things happen in my life? Because I chose it. Why I'm a billionaire? Because I chose to be. I chose to be a billionaire because it was up to me to believe it. And see, if it's up to me to believe that I can achieve it, then we're coming from this perspective. We're coming from a very me, I-centered perspective. It's not about karma. Karma is about like, yeah, you're a billionaire. Well, that's the karma. You have the karma to be a billionaire, regardless. Those are the events that happen in your life. Events that happen in your life. We talked about this. That's karma. So now the thing about fate and free will. So since I said there are two different sides, basically, right, of how we view the world. So basically, free will is like saying that I did everything. You know, the universe, everything that's in my little sphere. See, there's a little circle here. Everything that's in my personal little sphere is because of my actions. And then with fate over here, fate, it's like everything that I have is because this is what the universe has given me, or God, or whatever you want to call it. This is what it has given me. It's not because of my own actions. It's because some supernatural power, like the definition said. There's some supernatural power that has granted me these things and events in my life. Now, so, and then the way I would look at this little graph here is this line is karma. Regardless of whether you, from our perspective, whether we believe it's the universe giving it to us or we believe that we gave it, either way, we're still believing, we're looking at it in reference to ourselves, where it's just karma. Now, when we talk about fate and free will, what you'll also see here is you'll see this up and down line. So if karma here is the x-axis, there's y-axis. And y-axis is basically because it's going to come off of, because these are related to our self and our beliefs, right? Well, there's different ways that we can choose to look at the events that happen to us in our life, whether they're a positive thing or whether the events that happen to us in our lives from our own perspective of looking at the world are a negative thing. So now what you'll see in this next graphic is kind of like the polarities here. And since we're talking about polarities, and that's the name of the video, what I want to talk about here is polarities. What are polarities? Polarities are opposite ends of the same stick, right? There's a North Pole, South Pole, but what is in between is one single line, right? They're both different ends of the pole. Same thing. Fate and free will, they're same ends of the different ends of the same, of our personal perspective. And most of us, what I would like to say about all of these terms that you're going to see here is that all of us are closer, probably in a little circle right here, meaning that we have some belief that free will, and we have some belief in fate. You know, we have some belief that things can't be changed. This is what I have to deal with. And some belief that, okay, I need to do this, and I got this to do, and this is me choosing this. I'm choosing this. So now what I want to talk about is these other terms that you're going to see here. Because remember I talked about how this is kind of like the positive and this is kind of like the negative way. This is like the negative way of using this perspective of fate is acceptance. Accepting the things that happen in your life. That you're like, okay, well, this stuff is here, whether good or bad. You know, this stuff is here because, you know, and all the universe gave it to me, or this supernatural power has granted me these things, and it's beyond my control. Nothing I can do about it, and I'm just going to work with it. I'm going to accept it. Then the opposite side of that coin is I'm doomed to my fate. And this is the danger. This is a very dangerous place to be. When you feel like, oh, I'm doomed to have to experience a life of never getting married, or I'm doomed to experience not having much money or not having a job. Because if you're always looking at, if you're coming from a place of doomed to fate, you know, if you're looking at coming from a fate perspective of doomed, you're going to feel helpless. You're going to feel like that there's nothing you can do, and you're going to give yourself a reason not to do anything. And so it's very tricky when you come to fate. It's very important, even when it's negative things, to accept it, no matter what, and don't feel like you're doomed to it. And so that's where I wanted to address these two issues. And I even actually went out there and got definitions now. So this is doom. Whoa, there we go. Trying to control that a little bit. Doom. Okay, so doom is fate or destiny, especially adverse fate, unavoidable ill fortune. In exile and poverty, he met his doom. Ruin, death, to fall to one's doom. A judgment, decision, or sentence, especially an unfavorable one. The judge pronounced the defendant's doom. And see, even in this sentence right here, this example, the judge pronounced the defendant's doom, it's like the defendant is helpless to what the judge is going to tell him, a yes or a no, a positive or negative, right? So it's the last judgment, the end of the world, obsolete. Oh, this is an obsolete word. A statute, whatever, okay. Verb, to destine, especially to an adverse fate. To pronounce judgment against. Condemn, like the world has condemned me to this terrible fate. You'll see these words fate in here a lot. So, I mean, this is the very negative side of when we talk about fate. And so the very positive side of fate is acceptance. So acceptance is the act of taking or receiving something offered. Favorable reception, approval, favor. The act of assenting or believing, acceptance of a theory. The fact or state of being accepted or acceptable. Okay, that's getting kind of redundant. So the act of taking or receiving something offered. It's like, okay, this is what I have. I'm just going to take it. Favorable reception, approval, favor. So when we're talking about this stuff, like even the negative things that happen to us. So if you have $2 left to your name, well, if you sit there and go, I've got $2 left to my name. Okay, well, I've got $2 left for my name. Well, that's great. You know, I'm got fired from my job and I'm broke and I only have $2. Well, guess what? That means I can go for long walks now. You know, I can spend more time with my dog. You know, maybe I can move out of this crummy apartment. You know, I'll have to live on the street for a while, but you know, this is what has to happen. Now, doomed is like, yeah, oh my gosh, oh, when are things ever going to get better? This is just so terrible. Because again, it's like passing judgment on it. Like the world has doomed me to this fate. I'm just doomed to this terrible existence. So it's that idea. So when you come from this perspective, if you believe in fate, be very careful. Always be accepting, even of the negative things, and never feel doomed by it. Because if you go into the doom part, you fall into victimhood. You become a victim of the world. And so fate is a very careful thing. You have to be very careful with both fate and free will, because this is our ego here. Both of these are our ego-based existence, which ego-based existence doesn't mean, it's not egotism. Ego-based existence means that, well, it's from my perspective, my own point of view or perspective from my own little ego, which it's about ego, like our body basically, our ego identification with our human suit that we are wearing this lifetime. So when we're coming from this perspective and we're looking at things as you're coming from a greater cause that I can't do anything about, well then we need to lean towards acceptance. Because what happens with doom is we're going to go over here and we're going to talk about free will. You're going to lose all motivation. If you feel that you're doomed to the world and the weight of the world is just crushing you because this is the way things have, the judgment of the world has doomed you to this fate, well, you're going to lack motivation, because motivation is the positive side of free will. So free will is choosing our course of action. Motivation comes from, or can come from, there's a lot of things motivation can come from, but in this particular example, with free will, what we should get, the positive side of using free will, a positive way to think about free will and to let that come into our ego, our perception of the world, is to give us motivation. So I took this course of action, these things happen, now I'm motivated to do something else. Because if you have, I'm motivated to keep going. So if you had positive results based upon the actions that you believe that you took, then you should be motivated. You should take that as a place to be like, all right, that happened, that's great, let's move on. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing, let's keep going, right? Because the negative side of free will is egotism. This is the egocentric idea of like, again, not just, now we're not talking about ego as this baseline here, we're talking about ego as this puffed out ego, this idea of I'm so great. Because when we have positive things happen to us with egotism, we get an inflated head, right? We get this idea of like, oh, I'm so amazing because I chose free will. I chose to do this. So that's what makes me so great. I took these actions and it ended up working out amazingly because I'm so awesome, I'm so smart, I'm so active. But problem with egotism is what happens when things go wrong? Because with motivation, when things go wrong, if you just are taking free will, like I'm in charge of my action, that didn't work out, well then now I'm motivated to get better results. You know, okay, that didn't work out. Well, let's find another way. That's great. You know, I let it go, I move on. Same thing, motivation, something good happens, you're like, okay, that happened, great. Let's make even more success out of this. Now, egotism is like, so in egotism, when things don't go our way, what do? We go, well, because the ego has to be right. You're puffed up, you're already swollen, you want everybody to see how great you are. Well, when you believe that you're so great, guess what? When things don't work out your way, what do? You get frustrated. And then what do you start doing? You start blaming other people. And then, it's again, this is why I like with Doomed, where like you lose your motivation, right? With your Doomed, when your egotism, when things don't go right for you, you are the furthest you can possibly be from acceptance. Because you're not going to accept the events that are away there because everything is supposed to make you feel better, right? Everything is about you and how great you are. And then when things don't go wrong, it's somebody else's fault. It's, oh, well, this went wrong or that. There's this blaming. There's not really owning because you're not accepting the results of it. Whereas with motivation, it's like you let go of whatever it is. It's like, I'm just going to keep going no matter what. And so these are all things that stem from our perspective. But what, in the end, the reason why I didn't talk about fate and free will in videos 1, 2, and 3, because I want to talk about this baseline, which is karma. So in the next video, we're going to explore fate and free will through the lens of karma now, and how it is that karma is related to fate and free will. I just thought I would show you these examples of if we're going to believe in fate, if we're going to believe things are free will, if you don't believe in astrology, you don't believe in karma even, just realizing even outside of karma, outside of astrology, it's very important to just kind of look at it through this lens of like, if I believe that I'm the one that's choosing everything, I need to use that as motivation to keep going. No matter what, good or bad, doesn't matter. Keep going. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to your head. The same way, if you believe in fate, just accept it. Good or bad, okay, this is what I'm getting, whatever. You know, don't feel like you're doomed when you get the bad stuff, because that's what happens. Because these egotism and doomed only happen when the negative things happen. Acceptance and motivation are easier to happen when the good things happen, but they also make the worst things, the bad stuff, easier to handle. Because we're accepting of our fate, or we're motivated by our failures. And so anyhow, that's the start here of this discussion, or more so the continuation of this discussion, because it is video 4. So thank you very much for watching, and namaste.